It is Monday, November 4th, 2024. This is another edition of Football Today, presented to you by Captain Morgan, the official spiced rum of the NFL. I got my dudes, Bobby Skinner, Justin Penik. I am Chris Rose. Producer Jeff is along for the ride as well. We appreciate that. We're going to kick things off week 9, so we're basically halfway home through the regular season. Start off with our La Vida Más Fina game of the week, brought to you by our friends over at Corona. And why don't we go out to the best finish of the weekend? That would be out in Seattle. The Rams get a 39-yard touchdown pass from Matthew Stafford to Demarcus Robinson. They win on the road 26-20 in a tightly contested NFC West battle. Bobby Skinner, you've got all four teams. It's the only division where all four teams are separated by just a single game. Who is the team to beat in the NFC West? I want to know that.
This will go against the results for the first half of the season, but I still do think it's the 49ers. I think you look at where each of these units are. They have the number 6 scoring offense, number 16 on defense. So I trust they're probably going to get Christian McCaffrey back. The 49ers. The Cardinals are the first place team. But I'm like falling back in love with the Rams now that they survived, their early season struggles with all the injuries, where I'm enthralled by this division. I still take the boring answer of the San Francisco 49ers, but I'm ready to go to bat for each of these teams except for the Seahawks and kind of the Cardinals.
I think Matthew Stafford, if he finds a way to get into the postseason, which as of now, it seems like the path to getting into the postseason if you're an NFC West team, because you're going to beat up on each other so much, it seems to be winning the division.
But here's the thing is, they're the only division really so far that has beat up on each other a little bit, besides the NFC South. The NFC East and the NFC North, they've barely played each other. And
right.
They're starting to see that happen a little bit.
So maybe it'll balance itself out. But I think Matt Stafford, in terms of what is the postseason all about? It's all about quarterback play. And is a quarterback just going to really take over a game? And I think Matt Stafford in the postseason, and you saw in overtime, he was basically perfect, and great catch by Robinson in the back corner of the end zone too, the one-handed catch. But you just saw Stafford. It wasn't perfect, wasn't always pretty and sexy, but the throws that he makes are big boy, big time throws, and throws that can push the Rams forward if they do wind up getting into the postseason, can maybe even push them forward for a postseason run. And that's what I thought that they were going to do last year, but they just ran into a juggernaut in the Lions.
I don't know actually how Stafford completed the pass that he did to Tyler Johnson. I thought that thing could have been picked off about 6 different times. Ended up getting a big completion, getting him out of their own territory and moving him forward to victory. By the way, so I will answer this question momentarily. I don't think I've ever seen a team butcher red zone opportunities like Seattle has at home over the last 2 weeks.
It's brutal.
I mean, some people say, well, the rain played a factor last week against Buffalo. You had Geno tripping over the feet of his center, all sorts of stuff. And then on Sunday, he gets picked off not once, but twice by your boy, Bobby Skinner. You've been all over the Cam Kinchens train ever since basically draft day.
Made a grown man cry.
Yeah, and it ends up getting a 103-yard interception return. Like, the red zone is where veteran quarterbacks have to shine. You have to at least get 3 points. And all Geno's been doing is pissing opportunities away.
Yeah, and I've been I've really come to appreciate Geno's game, because I think he does a lot of things that quarterbacks don't. But like you said, if you keep on screwing it up in the red zone, those are and as much as I love Cam Kinchens, those weren't these amazing defensive plays. They were good defensive plays. That was Geno Smith playing bad football and putting it, giving you a gift for both those plays. One of them got returned for a touchdown, obviously. They're a mess. So, but who is your answer? And do you think there's a capability of more than one of these teams making the playoffs?
Yes, I do. Actually, I think that there's only 7 teams in the NFC that have a winning record. So if you're 4-4 right now, you're fine. You're not great, but you're fine. I do think that the next week is critical in terms of the season for the San Francisco 49ers. We keep hearing rumblings that Christian McCaffrey is going to be back. If he does play against Tampa Bay next week, how does he look? Can he be an every down guy? Can he be the offensive player of the year that he was a season ago? For the Rams, I think they're sitting pretty. I think Sean McVay was staring right down the barrel 3 weeks ago, and he got this team right. He got them back to at least a level playing field, and now I think they're fine. I do want to give some credit to Jonathan Gannon and that coaching staff out in Arizona because I didn't think that the defense could be good enough to keep them in games. They have steadily improved. They're not great by any means, but they keep them in games, and they have played virtually everyone tough this year. I think they had one blowout loss, but they even played the Lions very tough at home. Week 1 against Buffalo, they had them sweating into the fourth quarter. So the Arizona Cardinals can play with anybody. I think that 2 of those 3 teams will make the playoffs.
Yeah, Rose, I mean, look at the Cardinals' losses, where you just touched on it, but I'll go through all of them. It's the Bills that they played them tight, the Lions, 7 points, Commanders, they got blown out, and then the Packers. Those are the 4 losses that the Cardinals have this year. And they even beat the Chargers, which is a good team. They just beat the Dolphins. They just beat the Bears with the winning record. So you can't even say that. And they did beat the Rams week 2 as well. So you can't even say that their wins are fluky and all coming against bad teams. So
no. But I just do think that defense catches up with them eventually as we get down towards the season. And their offense has been, middle of the road. They are, high and then low. I can't bet on the Cardinals for the rest of the year, even though they are the first place team and they have sole possession of it. It's not off a tiebreaker like last week. And, they beat the Rams. They blew out the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the San Francisco 49ers. So, they should be getting more credit, but I just think they lack defensive talent. And then when we go quarterbacks, like I'm going Matthew Stafford, number 1 there. And then you can debate between Brock Purdy and Kyler Murray, but I think Brock Purdy at least is playing better than Kyler, even though Kyler's done some awesome shit. I just take the Rams and the 49ers a little more serious. But the 49ers, I just think, despite them being 4-4, they have a clearly good team. They just, they've made some big mistakes, the special teams at the end of the Rams game. But the Rams, I think, are not going to make it, though. I think they're probably going to have to deal with injuries again. Like they're an older team outside of their 3 young guys, and Verse, who's playing amazing. Fisk had a great game yesterday, and then Kinchins had his breakout game. But I just think there's too many things that have to. I feel like they're just being held together by, a rubber band over there. So I think it's 49ers Cardinals at the end of the day. I'd take the Rams in the playoffs, but I don't know if they're going to be able to make it.
I will end with this on the Arizona Cardinals. I thought that if they were going to be 5-4 and a division leader after 9 weeks in the season, that would be because Kyler Murray was playing at an MVP level. His completion percentage has been great, but he's not wowing you. He's averaging right around 200 yards per game. In fact, Sunday against the Bears, 13 of 20 for 154, and he didn't really run the ball. Ran it twice for 6 yards. As a team, they had more than 200 yards on the ground. They do have an identity with James Conner, who will just bully his way to the end zone. So good for the Cardinals. They've been a very good watch, if nothing else. Second half of the season, I think, in the NFC West is going to be a whole lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
So that was not only your game of the week, it was also kind of your division of the week, if you will, brought to you by Corona. You know what we always try and be around here? A fan that never loses. And here's what we mean. The Giants, that's our boys' team. The Browns, that's my team. They don't always win. In fact,
this ad was
lose.
made for us.
It was. They lose a lot. It seems like they lose every single week. But we never lose because we're always loving the game. We still have passion. We still love football because whether it's a deep pass downfield or converting a third or fourth and short or just going to a great tailgate when you got a home game out there in the parking lot, there's always something to cheer for. And the best beer to pair with that awesome moment, Corona. Corona is all about finding the maximum amount of joy within every moment of the game, win or lose, at home or on the road. It's the perfect beer to go along with watching football and all the moments that come along with it. So cheers to everybody who loves the game beyond the scoreboard. Corona, for the fans who never lose. Get yours at ordercorona.com. That's for 21 and over. Relax responsibly. Corona Extra Beer imported by Crown Imports in Chicago, Illinois. Might want to grab your Corona while you're settling in tonight and watching the premier sporting event. I'm not talking about Monday Night Football between the Bucs and the Chiefs. I'm talking about the season debut of Blitzball Battle 5. It is dropping tonight. Here is a sneak peek. Blitzball Battle 5. Game 1, it is a true classic. Team baggage, We got ice. We haven't seen this since the first ever game of Blitzball Battle 1.
This game is going to be one for the ages. I've said it. These two teams have got something to prove. We got ice. They've been the favourites for a lot of years, and they haven't been able to pull anything out. And look, we've got the company. This is the company we're talking about.
Peter, you're so right. Both of these teams do have something to prove. When you think of these tournaments, you think of these two squads. The fact that they both have 0 points is ridiculous, honestly. It's horrible. Talking to Jake before the game, I said, you got anything for me? And he just said, baggage is back.
What are they back from?
Well, a lot of things.
A lot of losses?
All right.
A lot of things.
What do you have?
I've got to go. We got ice. They're going to get off on a beautiful start today. Zoe has been the most improved in this warehouse over the last few years. We'll see what they've got.
I think I'm going to go with We Got Ice. We will see you later today. Blitzball Battle 5, Game 1. Head on over to youtube.com/@warehousegames to watch Blitzball Battle 5. It'll be coming your way. It's a special edition of Monday, Thursday, Sunday, and then next week it switches to Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. So make sure you tune in 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Join us in the chat. It is always a great, great time.
If you're watching football on Monday, Thursday, or Sunday, we're coming after you. That's how important this is.
Hell yes, it is. In fact, it's at 7:30 p.m. so you can watch the games and then settle in for your football. You could do
and then
both.
watch it again.
You know who's going to be watching football these days, not coaching it. Dennis Allen, relieved of his duties after the Saints suffered a 7th straight loss. They lost to the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. Dennis Allen, he was fired on Monday. It's not a huge shock in the middle of his 3rd season there in New Orleans. So he ends up going 2-7 this year, 18-25 with the Saints. And he has a .329 career winning percentage as a head coach between the Raiders and the Saints. That is the 3rd worst all time of a coach who has coached at least 75 games at the NFL level. Bobby Skinner, weren't the Saints your surprise team, one of them at the beginning of the year?
Rose, we were right.
This was a I will give Dennis Allen credit. This was his latest firing in season by a wide margin compared to his time with the Raiders. Yeah, it just fell apart. It fell apart for that team. You know, they started off hot 2-0. And then they lose that game to the Eagles, you know, what was it, 18-15 or whatever it was, and it just fell apart from there. Like, he lost the team. The defense, you know, Carr got injured. And it's not like Carr's been playing great, but like they basically had no offense outside of that. Olave and Shaheed got injured. And then defensively, they just started slipping. Like, I think he lost that team. They didn't have really any pass rush production from anywhere. They looked, that defense looked really good. The offense, we knew that wasn't going to be sustainable. But it just totally fell apart. And then when you lose to the Panthers on a 7th straight loss, like, it's just time. But this is, to me, I think this is less about Dennis Allen and more about the Saints. Are they going to take a couple gap years? Like, they have to. At some point, it's not working, right? We're not talking about a team that keeps on trying to extend their window of winning. They have to stop kicking the can down the road with every single contract and free agent, and they need to do what the Dallas Cowboys did this last offseason, where you just sit, you don't do anything, right? You don't sign Chase Young and give him, 4 void years. You don't. They already extended Alvin Kamara. They need to not sign a single person. Unfortunately, you're going to lose Adebo and Lattimore and those guys. Just try and keep the guys that you drafted that are young, but they've put themselves in this situation. At some point, they have to deal with it because they're not extending a winning. It's not even a team that's just like fighting for a wild card that's extending their window. They've been out of the playoffs consistently.
At what point does the guy who's been running the show for 2 decades pay for it?
That's who it should be on. I mean,
right?
That is like, I know I'm not sitting here saying Dennis Allen's a great coach, but he did have good defenses all the way up until these last 5 games. Like, consistently good defenses, and he's a defensive coach. Offensively, once Carr went down, they became a disaster. Like, that's who should be blamed, is Mickey Loomis, the GM, who's been there for so long.
It just kind of feels like ownership in New Orleans will just let Loomis has been running the show for so long at this point. So long. 2002. I mean, we're getting close to Brian Cashman territory of being in the same seat of GM, right? And it almost just feels like ownership, I think ownership in New Orleans has a couple different ventures, what they're doing. It's not like the Saints are their main thing. They've been willing to show patience, and I think the GM is gonna stay because he's been there for how long, and they'll just find a new coach and they'll continue to kick the can salary cap wise with players and mismanage bad contracts, and they'll do what they do.
So
right?
One of the biggest misnomers when people are like, okay, well, just scrap the season and start dumping. Well, when you dump salary in this sport, you get penalized for it. And so it's not as simple as, okay, well, we'll take a guy who's making $18 million and we'll ship him somewhere else.
Yeah, they
and all of a
can't
sudden-
trade anybody because of the way their contracts are set up, because they're all bonus money. So they have to pay that. So they can't even unload assets. They just have to eat it.
Right. And so that causes a lot of pain. I fear that my Cleveland Browns are going to be kind of in a very similar situation as the Saints. But now you're just looking at the Saints. They don't have a coach. What is their future at quarterback? I'm not going to ask Michael Thomas what he thinks about Derek Carr. Did you see that?
I didn't even understand what he was ranting about.
Well, so he was tweeting, Chris Olave took that terrible shot in the middle of the field where he was carted off the field, suffered yet another head injury. Thankfully, he put it out on social media. I'm fine. He appreciated everybody's thoughts and prayers. I'm going to be okay. But then Mike Thomas is like, see, I told you. He was taking shots at Derek Carr saying, that guy is killing receivers. He hated me. He didn't think I could be a one. It was bordering on Antonio Brown unhinged territory. Yeah. And then Chris Olave's brother, Josh Olave, got in on the whole act as well, like piling on. There is some serious shit going on with this team.
Yeah, siblings on social media and family members are always the worst. We deal with that sometimes with the Giants. You're definitely coming from an unbiased point of view over there, Mrs. Galladay. Whatever that is. But Olave got his first concussion was off of Spencer Rattler. You can't blame Carr for that. So Carr is what he is. He is exactly who we thought he was, and it's not to blame it on Carr, but it's like they're the one. Like I couldn't believe it when they signed Carr to that contract. It's like, what are you trying to accomplish here as the New Orleans Saints? Are you trying to accomplish scraping into the playoffs? Because they almost did that last year, right? 9-8. Same record as the Bucks, just lost the tiebreaker. So it's just, what are they trying to accomplish? So the GM's going to have to speak because they did a firing of a coach. That should be the clear ad question. You have done all this. You've kicked the can. What are you trying to accomplish? Do you think that is making you a Super Bowl contender? What do you think that's doing? So,
but Bobby, you know what the answer is going to be. It's going to be, well, we're doing all these moves because we think it's best for the organization. Now, that's not a serious answer. But
this is where reporters need to work as a team.
Okay, so what's the next question that you ask? Do you ask? So obviously it's not working. Do you have to sit down and reevaluate? Do you regret bringing in Derek Carr? Do you regret extending all these contracts?
Exactly. You don't move off of it.
Right. Those have to be the questions. But he's not going to come out. Wouldn't you be shocked if he came out and he said, yeah, you know what? I F this thing up.
But it puts pressure on ownership. So here's, I hate to take people to beat reporter school because I'm not a beat reporter, but I would be a good one if I could. This is where you ask your questions about Dennis Allen, and then you just you take one topic as a group and say, we are going to hammer on this. And if he doesn't want to answer it, we're going to make it extremely uncomfortable and make him look dumb for not answering any of these questions. And that puts pressure on ownership. But this is not beat reporter school. This is football today. But that's the reality. But at the end of the point, like, if you did a poll of America, which we're about to do on Tuesday, who is most to blame for the Saints' mess? It's Mickey Loomis. I think we can all be in agreement on that he is the main culprit of all this.
Yeah.
Well, to me, the bigger question is, who are they going to get go down there and coach? Does it really feel like a great job?
No,
Panthers got Canales. The teams people will always go for an opportunity.
I know they're going to get. I know somebody's going to be coaching, but is it somebody who has the ability to turn a program around?
I don't know. Panthers got Canales last year. I feel like if they can get a guy like Canales, I feel like the Saints could get somebody. Maybe they stay with their interim head coach, which is always a great decision.
And you know what?
For the Raiders. Their interim coach, Justin, you're going to love this guy. They did it right. Unlike the Jets, they are taking a special teams coordinator and making the head coach. So the OC and DC can focus on their jobs. Also, Justin, guess where this guy went to high school?
Bergen Catholic High School.
Former Rutgers special teams coordinator. Italian, Darren Rizzi.
You took my talking points, all of them.
He's gonna Riz you up, Darren Rizzi. I'm so excited for the Rizzi era. And then they'll finish the season 5-4 or whatever, or 4-3, and everyone will be like, he deserves a shot. He deserves a shot. And then they'll give him that shot, and then be like, you know what? He didn't deserve a shot. And that's
okay.
That's how interim head coaching goes.
Can we spend 2 seconds on the Raiders situation, since they had to deal with an interim coach last year, and now he's already fired his offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, halfway into the season, got rid of his quarterbacks coach and his offensive line coach?
Who's going to coach offense?
Antonio Pierce.
I mean, is this guy, Penik, is it possible that Antonio Pierce could be one and done?
Yes, but I don't think he will. I don't think he will. I think there's still enough goodwill there. I mean, they do deserve criticism for hiring Luke Getsy to begin with. Now, I will say, I am shocked at how poor the Raiders' running game is. And it's not just bad. It's not just like one of the worst in the NFL. It's one of the worst since the year 2000, if you look at like success rate and things like that. It's really bad. And I will say, if there's one thing that I thought that Luke Getsy was going to do, I had zero confidence and zero faith in Luke Getsy scheming up anything related to a pass game. But what he did in Chicago is they ran the damn ball pretty well. Now, you don't have the threat of Justin Fields' legs, but even like schematically, I thought they did some good stuff. And man, it's one of the worst in the last 25 years. And this is what Antonio Pierce was supposed to be about. Defense that punches you in the mouth, that plays aggressive, and then we're going to do the same thing on offense, punch you in the mouth, and run the damn ball. And they can't do it. So that's where, whether it's Antonio Pierce, Luke Getsy, make him a little bit of a scapegoat, that's where they deserve blame, because the things in which they said they were going to do and be about, they're terrible. Historically bad in it.
Yeah, they're an untalented group, and they got to... This was... Rose, we talked about this all offseason. It's like, I cannot believe that this is the Raiders' plan of attack, was to keep Pierce and then hire Luke Getsy, who the Bears just fired, and no one had a good thing to say about him on his way out of Chicago. And then they're playing a quarterback of Minshew and O'Connell. Like, this was destined to fail. Their defense last year's performance had so much to do with coaching and so little to do with actual talent that it wasn't going to be a good year, and then here the Raiders are. But I just don't understand how they're going to... How are they going to coach offense and think it's going to be even a little bit better when you lose the OC, the QB coach, and the O-line coach?
Well, I think they'll make up for it by turning the ball over, which they do at an alarming rate in most in the NFL. And they'll continue to do it by switching quarterbacks at least once a game, because it feels like they lead the league in that category as well. It's a mess. We'll see what happens. Once again, the Saints have a new head coach. The Raiders have a new offensive coordinator. Welcome to the topsy-turvy world. This is what happens when you have like 7 teams that have only 2 wins already this year. So
there's like 9 teams. There's 7 teams that are 2-7, which is crazy for the Giants. We have the worst record in the NFL, yet we have the 7th pick in the draft if the season ended today. It's
that away.
Tankathon broke yesterday, like the NFL Tankathon site. Like, I was sitting there trying to refresh it after one of the games ended, and I see on Twitter it's like Tankathon's broken. Like, too many people are clicking on Tankathon at one time.
All right, well, let's talk about some positivity in the NFL world. There's a bunch of teams that may or may not be mentioned as Super Bowl contenders. So we're going to focus on 4 of them. We're going to vote them on a scale of 1 to 10 on how much you believe on them. Yeah. Oh, wait, we have a question in the class?
Oh, but first, Chris Rose, did you know that there is a chill in the air? There are leaves falling to the ground, and number 3.
There's another hurricane coming, actually.
No, well, there's football on every weekend.
There is one coming this weekend.
And in football and hurricanes, that's what fall is all about. You can make each weekend even more exciting by getting into the action with our partners with the DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet on touchdowns right now. All new customers who bet just $5, you're instantly going to get $200 in bonus bets when you use our code FOOTBALLTODAY. $200 in bonus bets instantly? Yeah, that's a lot of dough when you just bet $5 on anything. Stay in the action. Use your $200 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns with DraftKings. DraftKings is the place to bet touchdowns. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. New customers use promo code FOOTBALLTODAY, all one word. Bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code FOOTBALLTODAY only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Bobby Skinner, Chris Rose, you will be glad you did. Producer Jeff, you'll be glad you did too.
All right, guys. Before Justin so rudely interrupted me with some good news there.
Sorry.
I was talking about grading on a scale of 1 to 10, these 4 teams. So we're going to fire through these. Justin, you'll get to go first on the Buffalo Bills. Your confidence level moving into the second half of the season for the AFC East leaders.
8.7 out of 10. The main difference is Von Miller just came back, and if Von Miller, he had 3 sacks in his first 3 games, and then week 4 only played 9 snaps, got hurt, came back this past Sunday. If Von Miller can be part of a pass rush that gets to the quarterback, I think this Bills team is scary. Now, Amari Cooper, get healthy, get better, but even though he's only had 1 game where he's been kind of pseudo-effective, he had a touchdown catch his first game, the Bills are still rolling. So Amari Cooper really hasn't even gotten rolling yet. 8.7 on the confidence scale for the Buffalo Bills.
Let me ask you this. Is this the scale? What is the scale based off of? Like Super Bowl contender, make the playoffs?
You tell me.
I'm just going to say in you as a team. Like how confident. So Bills, I'm going to go 9.1 because I got to do more than just. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do this pointed shit. 9. I got a 9 in the Buffalo Bills. I mean, they have the best QB by far out of these teams, and because of it's still halfway through the year. It's like no one's really like set in the playoffs besides a couple teams. The Bills are one of those teams. They've won their division. Their division is essentially over. So like they're in it. They have a home playoff game, and they could be competing for the number 1 seed. Like their eyes are more on the number 1 seed than making the playoffs. So I got a lot of confidence in the Bills. Like their 2 losses, they got smoked by the Ravens, which is bad because the Ravens are really good. And then they lost to the Texans by 3 points when Josh Allen completed 32% of his passes. Like the Bills are going to be good.
Yeah, I give them an 8 out of 10. I feel like there's a couple teams in the AFC that are definitely better than them. I think the Chiefs are one of them because of that elite defense. I do still believe wholeheartedly in the Baltimore Ravens moving forward, and I want to see what the Texans look like when Nico Collins returns. So I would grade them kind of a half step behind what I would call the best of the best in the AFC. Let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Bobby Skinner.
I'll say a 6. That defense is really good and continue to win them games. I don't know what's going on in my kitchen right now. That offense isn't very good. And Russell Wilson has made it look better and it gives more opportunities, but it's not even a Russell Wilson thing. It's just they're not filled with talent. I don't think that rushing offense is great despite the fact that they're top of the league in yards. They rush it so often. So I'm not overly confident in the Steelers. Like they're to me the 4th team out of these 4.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I'm going to go quick here.
And they're the only team in here that isn't the best team in their division, and we just know it for a fact.
You don't think, like, when it gets down to it, like, the Pittsburgh Steelers can be a sound, fundamental, a really good football team, disciplined football team. But I'll tell you what, in the postseason, that's not going to necessarily win you all these playoff games, where if you're going up against there are teams like the Buffalo Bills, there are teams like, I know the different conference, but Detroit Lions, that they're Baltimore Ravens, they're going to run the ball no matter what. They're going to be successful on offense no matter how good your defense is when it gets down to it in the postseason. And I just don't trust this Pittsburgh Steelers offense to be able to score more than 24 points whenever they're playing themselves another good defense on the other side of it.
Yeah,
Fun story.
I'm going to say a 6.5, but it could move up or down a lot over the next 2 weeks when they're at Washington and home against the Ravens. Steelers have yet to play a divisional game. I think that they could, I think if they go they might go 3-3 in this division. And I don't know if that might be good enough to get them a wild card, but it's not going to be good enough to help them win that division. In fact, I still think Cincinnati at 4-5 has got a decent shot of leapfrogging Pittsburgh.
I agree.
I could see the Steelers falling apart. I don't believe in the Bengals at all. But I think the Steelers team is a good team. But like Justin said, no one views them as actual contenders to make a run.
All right,
Next
fellas. I'm gonna call an audible because we have to wrap this up in like the next minute. Okay. The Commanders or the Eagles? Who wins? We asked at the top who's going to win the NFC West. It basically is a 2-team race right now with the Commanders and the Eagles with the NFC East. Who do you trust winning the NFC East when it's all said and done, the Commanders or the Eagles?
Commanders. I think they're better at beating bad teams. They're just harder to prepare for. The Eagles are more talented. They should be, but I don't. it's easy to prepare for their offense because schematically, it's just can you hang with their O-line and Saquon and A.J. Brown. Good teams will. Good teams against the Commanders' offense, it's hard to prepare for.
I think next episode we have to talk about the Nick Sirianni factor. I think it's the only thing that is holding this team back from a possible NFC Championship game appearance. So I would go with Washington.
All right. Well, we'll talk about the Nick Sirianni factor later in the week then.
Very good. All right, everybody, enjoy your next few days. For Bobby Skinner, for Justin Penik, for producer Jeff as well. I am Chris Rose. We will see you next time here on Football Today. It is presented to you by Captain Morgan, the official spiced rum of the NFL.